in 2 days, I think it got over 75 million
I
signups.
don't want to have that additional negative attention of metaverse.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring this threads to someday on Instagram as well.
Is it called Instagram Threads or is it Threads? Threads. Let's
Threads
call it
and
It's
Instagram
Threads.
app.
Instagram app.
No,
Okay.
I was very surprised with the title they gave to. They're like Threads and Instagram app.
Oh, an Instagram app. Okay. So,
No,
people
actually,
who
let's talk about that for a second, right? So let's take Meta as a company. Okay. They have Facebook, they have WhatsApp, they have Instagram. And obviously, another bigger vision that they're looking at is the metaverse. Okay. So, at least what I feel like with the title is they don't want the customer to correlate with anything else other than Instagram.
Yeah.
So they don't want people to think about this as a Facebook or like an extension of Facebook. They don't want to think about WhatsApp as a typical messaging app. They don't want customer to see Meta at all because they don't want to have that additional negative attention of metaverse. So they're like, dude, this is an Instagram add-on app.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring this threads to someday on Instagram as well. I mean, how they kept like reels and all that stuff.
No,
So
no, I
that
think
was
they
like
wouldn't do that. But yeah, I have a thesis on that, funny. Like, let's discuss as we get deep into it. But to give everybody context, right? So 2 days back, Meta released Threads. It's a Twitter copy. You could call it a Twitter copy or a Twitter killer, whatever you could, right? The exciting part there was in 2 days, I think it got over 75 million signups. That's obvious, right? Anybody who has an Instagram account could automatically sign into Threads, so you have a traffic of people who are signing up and all of that stuff. But I think this is, last time we discussed about ChatGPT getting 100 million users in 2 months. That was a record. And Meta getting 75 million in 2 days is also a record now. Let's maybe dig deep into see like what were your first reactions on this, and like what do you feel like, is it a good strategy for Meta, bad strategy for Meta, and how is it for Twitter?
I think it's a good strategy for sure because it's a right timing too because of all the changes that's happening with Twitter, every chaos that's happening there, right? They're able to easily replicate the app. I don't know if I can say that they replicated the app. When I go to Threads app, I feel like it's more related or lookalike of an Instagram than a Twitter copy. And even the UI and everything, I feel like it's catered more towards a younger audience rather than thinking about a older audience. I think the market itself is completely different. I don't know if you guys observed one more thing. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of these apps, when you look at, and when you go to the app right now, the app store right now, the age restrictions for all of these apps are 12 plus. So anyone who's within that audience can use the app. But go to Twitter. Twitter is an 17 plus app. Okay, which basically means there is like content restrictions and stuff that are applied to Twitter rather than Instagram.
No,
Yeah.
it's the opposite, right? Yeah.
It's the opposite. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Threads rather than Twitter, right? Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Your reaction, Srinath. After you, I'll give my reactions. I'm holding off.
No, I mean, I was amazed to see the number of users, and in the first, I was also observing another metric. I think the first 7 hours they got some close to 10 million users or something. So, which was also pretty big. And I mean, I know there's a lot of debate, as Funny said, that it's a copy paste and all, Twitter. I mean, I think I also have a very similar view of what Funny said. I think Facebook probably, or Meta, sorry, here is using an opportunity here because of a lot of the negativity or the stuff going on with Twitter. So I think they're using that opportunity. And I also read a couple of forums where lot of folks from Twitter who moved from Twitter to join Meta were also part of this initiative. And I also heard Twitter sending the attorney sending a letter to the thread, like Mark. I think just a few hours before the threads launch. So I mean, I'm curious to see how that goes, what happens. But overall, I think it's a very good opportunity for when Meta, or they're calling Instagram app, for them to basically, I mean, scale something new. And until now, everyone knows that we did not never had a competitor like for Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. I think my first impressions, right? I think both are completely different, right? Instagram is more a picture-based, photo-based app, where Threads is more a text-based app, which is kind of the competitor for Twitter. My first impressions were, I think the product team needs a kudos, man. Even though they copied it, they were able to basically build an MVP and scale it to hundreds of millions of people without any hiccups. I was using it extensively in the last 2 days, but I never had a situation where it was hanging up or not refreshing, or it was crashing or something like that. So I think they did a really really good job, at least to put the minimum set of features for it to look like something like a Twitter, right? So that was my first impressions as I did it. Also, I liked the way where they teased it. So initially it was teased where anybody who went into Instagram and searched for threads, there there came up a surprise icon on the right, and when people clicked on that, you get notified for that alert whenever the app is live. I didn't know that app stores had this, where you could actually sign up for an app before it's launched, and it'll actually notify you once the app is live. That's when I got to know that the app was live. So that was also a very interesting way to tease people into the whole app here. So, and also this came in the right time, right? Elon was restricting the number of threads, or sorry, tweets. I'm already calling it threads, but tweets people can actually view. So it's restricting the engagement, and now Elon is like, okay, man, we are letting it out and you can do whatever you want. So I think we see a lot of buzz around people trying to figure what it is and try to play with it and how the algorithm works and all of that stuff. So those were my first impressions. But I feel that there is a very big gap Instagram has, which Threads is basically coming in to fill in. So, just a use case from my side, right? So, there's a lot of educational content that is being put in Instagram, right? So, even consider my product page, right? I talk about product management on all of that stuff. Sometimes when you try to put all of this into Instagram, it's not that easy to put that in a consumable way, because you cannot fit all of the information in one image. So you have to create a carousel of different images where people go through and read the content and learn from it. But there has been no space where people can react to and also converse about that conversation, right? Imagine I posted about what product marketing management is, right? There used to be a lot of DMs which people used to send me saying any questions and things like that. But if there was a way where you could interact with people, there is comment section, but you cannot add links, right? And there's not comments to comments, and it's basically you're in that post zone, not interacting with multiple different people. So I think this Threads app comes as a fill in to that lacking which was there in Instagram, where people who have following and who want to have a community and have discussion with their community, they can go to Threads to do that. Previously, all of this discussions for social apps like Instagram, YouTube, all of them were happening in Twitter. Now Threads comes in, and it becomes a space where people can come in and interact with their followers and all of that stuff. So yeah, overall this is what I felt in the Threads launch. But still, right, I think the app is pretty light. The app doesn't have the bookmark feature. The app I think doesn't have DMs where people can message with each other. The app doesn't have I think automatic threads stuff, right? And that actually is lacking an algorithm, because I just see random stuff. But Twitter's feed is much curated for me based on my usage, right? I'll only see content which I like. But Threads is not that way. It's just random stuff which people are texting.
Yeah, and also a lot of the information probably shared is through friends only as of now. So that's probably one big difference that we'll see from Twitter, where you have like audience from um like every generation or all stuff, who are probably also using that as a mode of communication, versus here I feel like a friends discussing about a
That's right.
topic
But
or
Threads has
sharing
a
about something.
really big potential, right? Because Twitter has like 300 million active users, if I'm not wrong, and Instagram has 2 billion users. Imagine if like Threads can get 20 or 30% of it. It's already equaling what Twitter's users are, right? So that is huge. And also, it could potentially maybe dominate Twitter. I wouldn't say kill Twitter, because people will still keep posting in Twitter and also Threads. I guess they're now just repurposing content in Twitter and just posting that in Threads at this point.
Another big thing
Yeah.
I want to call out between Threads and Twitter is the influential people. So the reason Twitter stayed at its state, despite having like so much controversies around, is because of the influential people that are there on Twitter and posting the messages there. So let's
Yeah.
think of it like this, right? Twitter, if you go to the App Store right now, I was just playing around, is shown as the number one news app. But if you think of social networking, so the app that is rated number one, I believe, is either Instagram or WhatsApp. They take the number one and number two position typically. But now with Threads launch, Threads went to number one for social networking, and Instagram and WhatsApp went to number two and number three. So funny part is all three of the top three positions are still owned by Meta in social networking. So
Owned by Meta.
if yep, if Threads can come, I mean, if Threads can bring those influential people into Threads, and if it can continue to keep them for a period of time, that's when it'll start to dominate Twitter. But if it can't do that, and if it becomes just another app for friends talking, then it's not going to sustain, even if it gets like such a big traction.
Yeah. So let me give you a
Yeah.
influencer take. Uh, people who have really good following on Instagram will also want to develop the same following in Twitter, but right. But on Twitter, it's very hard now, because the trend, there were people who are following the trend, caught early on the platform, and now have like massive following, and it's very hard to beat that algorithm, right? So even though uh, I put the same content on Twitter every day, and you also go in and comment on different people, so there are certain strategies which you follow to grow your following, right? Even though you're doing it for a year or two, there is very less traction. But imagine the same, right, where you're signing up for a text-based social media app, and you're actually getting access to all your followers here, and overnight you're gaining 1,000, 2,000 followers. That's magical, right? So, and people want to basically maintain the momentum and jump on the next bandwagon, and gain as many followers as possible, because now it's easy to make your thread viral and also have really really big number of impressions there, and people follow. So I think that's what people are trying to do now. They're like putting as much content as possible. I see people still awake in the night trying to do threads and uh, put as much content as possible.
I want to add a couple of things here. Content creators versus content consumers, right? So if I think of the apps like Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc., the focus on content creators is extremely high. So they value that persona, they give benefits to that persona, so that the apps can continue to retain those people and then make money out of them. I'm gonna stress on that statement, right? All of these apps basically make money out of the content creators. Okay, but take Twitter on the other hand. All of this time, for the last few years, Twitter honestly haven't utilized the full potential of the content creators to make the money out of them. The reason is they don't really incentivize the content creators to make something happen. And I believe that is what Elon Musk has been trying to do for the last couple of weeks with the launch of subscribe button, where they'll start to incentivize the content creators and at the same time continue to keep them within the app and make more posts out of them. But Threads, on the other hand, can utilize the exact same strategy that they're following with Instagram, and then keep the focus on the content creators from the get go.
Yeah, yeah, and also like there's this expertise piece, right? So what is Meta, Facebook famous for, or what are their experts at? Right, they're experts at building social apps and communities. I think they could use all of that expertise in building these tools for the creators, and also maybe ad networks and all of that stuff, which on the contrast, right, Twitter has to build all of these ground up from scratch. And there's also a lot of revenue problems that is happening because advertisers kind of came out of the platform, or are not looking for elsewhere for putting their money in and all of that stuff. So it'll be a uphill battle for Twitter, but I feel that if competition is healthy, right, it'll drive more value to the users than ever before.
Yeah, I think in our product management world, we call sometimes that as like platform product management, where you create a platform which can be easily extensible for other stuff features. I think, as you said, they created probably an MVP out of this, and I'm sure there's a lot of potential around features. And maybe the baseline is that in same Instagram platform, probably that's why it was easy for them to build on top of something. So yeah, if you look at some of the features, right, like the followers features and all that stuff, which automatically imports, which says that there's tight integration between Instagram and this, probably they are using that similar platforms, frameworks, and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that can be
So
done in future, but I'm really impressed with their first MVP.
it's just two steps, I guess. You click on the invite and then you say follow all or no, and then your account is created.
Done.
So onboarding is so seamless. Yeah. So also this other pattern, right, like you see with Meta these days. Meta is doing the copy test strategy, right, where they basically, Snapchat came up with stories, they brought in stories to Instagram. TikTok came with short form video, they got reels, and now they're also getting Twitter.
Yep. And that's also one more thing Meta does good is bringing their next big product, because one thing if you observe with social networking type of platforms is they can't sustain after a period of time, because the moment next generation comes into picture, the older form cannot sustain because the younger generation don't want to stay on the same product that the older generation used. Same thing happened with like bunch of social networking apps like starting with Orkut, High Five, etc. And the same thing is happening with Facebook as well for the last few years. Like there is several memes stating that nobody's on Facebook right now. Okay, they might be following onto the next trend to say like what will sustain if Instagram doesn't stay in the next decade or so. This could be
Yeah.
one of the big things that will sustain even after Instagram and others.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like we
because
are all
you
out
may
of
be able.
Facebook, and our parents are on Facebook, right?
My grandparents are on Facebook. I should tell you that. So that's when
Yeah.
I came out of Facebook. I don't use it a
I
lot.
So another thing is WhatsApp is still branded as social networking, but I feel like it's more of a messaging app. So messaging apps doesn't have a generational bias, but a social networking app definitely has a generational bias in order for you to like continue to use it.
Yeah, and also I think
Yeah.
the set of preferences and the way people interact change, from generation to generation, right? Orkut was like everything was open, conversations were open, right? You are actually competing for scraps, right? People were looking at different people's messaging, what they were talking about, and all of that stuff. And Facebook was little open, and Snapchat is like completely closed, right? You can only send a picture to one person, and that also goes away in 10 seconds. And if somebody takes a screenshot of that, you get notified, and there's like more and more privacy and how people interact with each other.
Now it's even more.
Yeah.
Everyone talks in threads. And I think the major notion of Twitter or threads is you being able to have a conversation with someone influential or someone big and being able to talk to them. That's the big point where Twitter has been sustaining. If Instagram can, sorry, if threads can continue to do that, that's where it will continue to stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a
Yeah,
side
man.
note, I really like the word threads. It's so simple. I mean, it's basically which can be used more of a conversation thread, which is all about app. And excuse me, I know we talked about how, I mean, probably Facebook or Meta copied some of the features, but I feel like they do it really well. So they don't show it as like a copy, but we know that it has exact same functionality. But I don't I know many people can do that, but I don't think they do well. But I'm impressed how Meta does it.
Did you look at the logo, Threads logo? The logo was good too.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
There were so
something
many
like an
memes on
ant
that as well.
symbol, right? Yeah, yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah, that was a quick discussion on threads, but we can also do a detailed deep dive in our future episodes. But thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
everyone.